Hey everybody, JC here. Happy Thursday evening. It's about 8:20 here in Porter, Texas. About to go run a couple of quick errands, and we're going to use Tesla FSD to do it. Let's get going. All right, push the little blue button. Pull out of my home driveway. Avoid my sister-in-law's Honda. Pull out onto the neighborhood street. Beautiful night here. It's about mid 50s. I think right now it's about 53 degrees, so it's a little bit chillier than it was last week, but I would tell you for mid-February, when it's 53, can't ask for a whole lot better than that. Maybe about 10 to 15 degrees more. But this isn't Southern California, so beggars can't be choosers, but it is nice. So yeah, just gonna run a couple of real quick errands. Got my brother-in-law home. He is moving around great, but as you might imagine, he's still he's using a walker to get around. He's not quite at a point where he can drive his truck yet. So what we're really hoping is, with getting out and about a little bit, I think I'm going to take him to the grocery store tomorrow, let him walk up and down a couple of food aisles, but maybe in a week, hopefully less, but let's just say another week of moving around a little bit every day, being home, he might be able to start driving around the neighborhood a little bit, at least getting around here where you don't have to be at super high speeds and his reflexes don't have to be super pinpoint, and allow him to get out of the house a little bit so he's not so stir crazy. As you might imagine, he's been in a bed in a hospital and a rehab center for the last 2.5 weeks. Now he's at least back home, but still, kind of confined to the house. So really the primary goal right now is for him to get some of his independence back. So probably go do that tomorrow. But as for tonight, he's still pretty much dependent upon me or Uber Eats or something like that. And so, save your money. And I'll just go use Tesla FSD to go get some stuff for him. That's the cool thing is, in the not too distant future, he'll just be able to send our Tesla out when he's at home, when he's here with us, to go do that. By the time we have that, he probably won't be here with us anymore. He'll be back out on the road working. I mean, that's the whole point of all these surgeries, right, is to get him back to 100%. But just to stay with that, forget about him personally, but just in general, is that instead of me going out with my Tesla on FSD and supervising it, at a certain point, we'll get to where it's unsupervised. You'll still have to be in the vehicle, still have to be in the Tesla, but would not necessarily have to be up in the front driver's seat supervising the whole time. And then get to a point where it's completely driverless or passengerless, and it just goes and gets a package for you, or goes and picks up something for you. And so we are not there today, not by a long shot. So I am his driverless Tesla right now. I am his AI. So that's what I'm doing. I'm supervising my Tesla to go do that. So yeah, gonna go to Whataburger, stop by there real quick, and then go by the convenience store. But then tomorrow we'll go to a grocery store, and I'll have him along with me on that one so that he can go out there and move around a little bit. All right, we're taking a right turn here on Westlake Houston Parkway. be going to the Whataburger at Kingwood Drive in Westlake Houston Parkway, so not too far away. So yeah, yesterday I was getting close to the end of excuse me, my discussion on EV batteries and EV charging, and we're getting close to the end on that. We're going to be able to close it out pretty soon. So I think yesterday, before I ended, I was talking about the EV charging curve and why I stay in that 10 to 60% range when I'm on a road trip, but that I do go up to 80% when I'm at home, and why that makes sense, why it makes sense to stay in that 10 to 50 or 10 to 60% range when I'm on a road trip, and why it's so much faster to charge from 10 to 60% or 10 to 50% than it is to charge from 60 to 100. And it is. It takes me about 15 minutes to go from 10 to 60% at a 250 kilowatt charger versus taking another 35 minutes just to go from 60 to 100. And why that makes sense. And I went through the whole analogy of, going to NRG Stadium to watch the Texans play, and imagine showing up at 8 or 9 a.m. for a Sunday noon game versus showing up at 11:58 a.m., right? And how much harder it is to find a parking spot. All right, we're getting into the turn-in lane here, into the turn-in median. Getting in there, we have the right of way from that other car in the turn-in median. We come up to the stop sign. All right, we go across. Turning into the Whataburger. See how it does in the Whataburger parking lot. Well, it parked us, but not great. So we are about 2 feet over the line. We're on one of those crisscross white markings, which technically you're supposed to stay out of. So not the best parking job in the world. So I'm going to go ahead and need to repark. And in fact, they put us in the online order. I guess I could stay here and do an online order. But nonetheless, it parked us, but not the best parking job in the world. So I'm going to run into Whataburger here in just a second. So I'm going to shut it down for a little bit, run in there. But yeah, we were talking about, I was just taking us back through the EV charging thing, and why I explained to you why it does charge so much faster from, say, 0 to 50, which you can go from 0 to 50 in about 15 minutes, and then 50 to 100 takes 35 to 40 minutes for a total of an hour. And why that happens, and it happens to do with the battery chemistry. So I think that I have closed all that part of EV batteries out. If there are any questions about that, don't hesitate to hit me up in the comment section. I'd be happy to go through it. Again, it's just battery chemistry. It is literally the difference between physics and chemistry. So, when it comes to a gas tank, that is completely about volume and physics. The volumetrics of a gas tank, and why it doesn't take any more or less time for that last gallon versus the first gallon. But when it comes to EV batteries, you're talking battery chemistry, and chemistry can be completely different. And it's about moving electrons and lithium ions from the anode back over to the cathode. And as you start filling that cathode up, it just takes longer. That voltage is going higher and higher. There's more chemical reactions going on within that cathode as you're, moving it from the cathode back over to the anode. Sorry, apologies, I got that mixed up. But as you're, for all intents and purposes, filling that anode back up, you're having chemical reactions, and the voltage is obviously going up now in the anode and the EV battery. And so it just takes longer. It takes longer for each of those electrons and lithium ions to find a home over there. It's getting filled up. So again, the best analogy is think about a football stadium parking lot for a noon game. When you're at 0%, it's like showing up for that noon game at 8 a.m. When you're at 50%, it's like showing up for that same game at about 10:30 a.m. It's definitely still easy, but not as easy as it was at 8 a.m. And when you're at 90+%, 95%, or I should even say 80, once you get to 80%, it's like 80% is like showing up at 11:45 a.m. 95% is like showing up at noon for a noon game. You're still going to be able to see that game, but it's going to be tough for you to find a parking spot now. You're going to be driving around a bit, right? So that is the single best analogy to explain the chemistry of EV batteries and why it just takes longer as you go up that charging curve. But that's not it. It's not a big deal, because if you stop every 2.5 to 3 hours like I do, I just do, then your lifestyle will not change one bit if you stay in that 10 to 60% range on a road trip. And if you do that, if you leave a charging spot at 60%, get on the road for 3 hours and get down to about 10%, and you pull into that next charging spot, good luck, trying to, get done with everything you need to do. Like I said, clean out your car, use the bathroom, get refreshments and whatnot. Try to get all that done in less than 12 to 15 minutes. Because like I said, and you're on a road trip, so usually there's other people that are on road trips as well. So it's not like there's not going to be anybody in that convenience store. So it's going to take you 15 minutes, right? Especially if you got a family, if it's a couple, right? And so you're going to be back up to 50 to 60% within 15 minutes. And if you're good with that, you just pull out, get right back on the road, and then you're back down to 10% in about 3 hours, 2.5 to 3 hours, and you're ready to do it all over again. And like I said, if you stay in that, your lifestyle will not change whatsoever. And then what'll happen too is every once in a while, instead of just getting back out on the road, you and your family are probably going to want to eat something a couple of times during that day. So you'll stop at, instead of just going to a convenience store, you'll want to go to a restaurant, or you'll want to at least eat at a Whataburger or something like that. So that's going to take you longer than 15 minutes. And what'll happen there is now, instead of your charge, stopping at 50 to 60%, now you're going to get up into that 80 to 90% range. And so you're going to, even though you don't really need it, you're going to have a little more flexibility now after that. But I'm telling you, you're almost never even going to need that. Because quite frankly, if you're on a road trip as a family during the day, somebody in that car is going to want you to stop within 3 hours. It is what it is. Me personally, I just like to get out every 3 hours anyway, from a blood circulation standpoint. So anyway, I hope that answers everything. I know, probably the folks in Whataburger are looking at me like, who's this yahoo talking to his windshield? But yeah, hit me up in the comments if you got any more questions about battery charging and how we operate like that. Really, the only thing I had left on my list to talk about with EV batteries was cost. So I was going to talk to you about the cost of charging, because there's charging at home, charging on the road, and then basically equating that to your typical internal combustion engine car and comparing and contrasting the cost of that. So there's EV battery charging cost, and then there's EV battery costs themselves. And so I want to talk about that. That will then totally complete my battery days discussion that a number of y'all had hit me up on. So once I'm done talking about EV batteries, I'm gonna have to come up with go back through the YouTube comments and see if I can come up with some new topics for this kind of pseudo Tesla FSD podcast that I'm doing. I am still waiting. I'm still on 13.2.2, so I'm still waiting for the next update. So like I said, my plan for now, until I get a new update, is that as I do these drives, I'm still going to keep filming them. I'm still going to put them on video for y'all, but that I would do more of a kind of a podcast type of process until I do. Once I get a new update, y'all know how I operate. Once I get a new Tesla FSD update, then for the next healthy handful of drives, I concentrate completely on the drive itself and, kind of narrate the drive and tell you if I'm feeling anything different or not. So what I usually do is every single time I get a new FSD update, I've got probably a couple of healthy handfuls of places around Houston and Southeast Texas that I like to take FSD through. And when I do that, I will generally completely concentrate on the drive and that new FSD update. But I've pretty much exhausted most places at this point that I can go to on a regular basis on 13.2.2. And so, what I do now is I still go ahead and throw on the GoPros and film all my drives. But while I'm doing it, unless I sense something new, I will just go ahead and kind of do a podcast variety thing. And so here lately, I've been doing the Q4 earnings release of Tesla. I did obviously EV batteries and EV charging. And like I said, I'm going to close it out on the way back with charging cost and battery cost. And then, we talked about Optimus humanoid robots. So what I'll do is I will go back through the YouTube comments, think of some additional topics. Hopefully, though, I get a new FSD update here and I can put that on the back burner and talk to you more about FSD updates. But until then, I will use the time to talk about various topics that y'all might be interested in. So let me know. Hit me up in the comments about that as well. Anything you would like to. I've got some ideas, but hit me up in the comments. I will definitely put your ideas at the top of any thoughts that I may have. Well, with that, I'm going to shut her down here, go run into Whataburger here real quick, and then we'll be back up on the road. I got one more stop at the convenience store. But again, we'll talk about EV battery charging cost and EV battery cost on the way home. And then we will completely close out EV batteries and EVs and all the chemistry and technology that goes into that. All right, everybody. See y'all in a little bit. Bye. All right, everybody. Back in the Tesla. Let's get back on the road. You'll probably notice I didn't move my Tesla at all. I just said there weren't that many people around, so I was just like, So I was good to go. All right. Backing out, straighten up, avoid that Toyota Highlander coming out of the Whataburger parking lot. Circling around, we're going to come up here and take a left and get in queue to get out of the shopping center parking lot. So this Whataburger is part of a bigger, broader shopping center with an H-E-B and a bunch of other places to eat. So, all right, we're coming out of the main shopping center parking lane. So here we go, get up to the stop sign and we'll come to a complete stop, and then we'll take a right when there's no oncoming traffic, which should be now, and there we go. Awesome. All right. So yeah, we closed out our discussion. We were talking about EV battery. Now we were talking about EV battery charging cost. So that's the last couple of things we want to talk about is charging cost, and then just EV battery economics in general. So just to let y'all know, we're going to talk about a couple of things. What are my charging costs at home? What are my charging costs on the road? And then how does that compare and contrast to a typical internal combustion engine car on the road, regardless? So my charging cost at home, my electricity cost here in Porter, Texas is 8 cents a kilowatt hour. Or sorry, I should say 8 cents a kilowatt. Now, that's not going to be the same everywhere. I live in Southeast Texas, and specifically Montgomery County, Texas. And I'll be the first to admit, I think we probably have some of the best electricity rates in the country. I know others around the country may not. And ironically, because I live in one of the reddest parts of the reddest states, here's one of the biggest ironies of all ironies. In East Texas and North Texas, we have really gone hard in the paint on wind power, solar power, and natural gas. And I will be the first to say it, really, really hard in the paint on natural gas. And what that has done, all three of those things, and just FYI, we got in there before it turned red. It was still yellow as we were going through, so we were good to go there. But because we have gone so hard in the paint in the state of Texas on wind, solar, and natural gas, and I would say if I were to put those 1, 2, 3, it would probably be wind number 1, natural gas number 2, and solar number 3. Wind is just, it's done really good for us here in Texas. It really has. But because of that, we've really benefited from very low power costs. So mine are about 8 cents a kilowatt. I know people that are getting it at 6 to 7 cents a kilowatt. And I am not talking about people that do home solar. Like, I get it. There are people that have home solar installed and have gotten all that initial upfront cost out of the way, and they've totally amortized that out, and they're basically free or making money on it. So I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about those of us that are completely dependent. Like, I'm 100% dependent on the ERCOT, on our grid. And I'm at 8 cents a kilowatt. And so that's really, really good. And I guess the only other irony to that is because I am at that 7 to 8 cents a kilowatt, it's a little bit tougher for me to justify doing home solar because my payback period is so much longer. And so it's really more about, all right, if it's like, as long as the powers that be continue to go hard in the paint on solar and wind themselves, it makes it less beneficial for me. Like, it makes the payback period longer for me to want to do home solar. But that's another story for another day. Let's put a pin in that as we turn here into the convenience store. Or turn into the turning median. All right, we're turning into the turning median. All right, we got a stop sign. Wait for any oncoming vehicles. We have one vehicle oncoming, so we need to wait for them. We should be good, and there we go. We're coming into the convenience store parking lot. See how we do in here. All right. Coming around. Let's see how we do here. What are we gonna do? All right. Well, we're parking, and we are actually in the lines. But I'm going to tell you what, that was a bit of an a-hole move, because as you can see, this guy is parked here, getting air in his tires with both of his doors open. Now, that being said, he really doesn't need to leave his door open. So I met his a-hole move with my own a-hole move. But it's funny, we're actually inside the lines here. Like, it was able to match his a-hole move with our a-hole move and stay within the lines. Yeah. So yeah, at first I thought about that, like, well, we're kind of being a-holes, but then I was like, well, no, we're not, because that guy was the original a-hole. So anyway, it all worked out. We're in the lines. But before I go in there, let me close that out. So yeah, I am at 8 cents, 7 to 8 cents. So it's 8, but there's certain times that I can do it at 7 cents, but overall I'm kind of at a fixed rate plan for about 8 cents. So really, really good. Of course, I don't keep that same rate when I'm on a road trip. When you're on a road trip, you have to use Tesla superchargers, and those rates can be all over the place. What I would tell you is I've seen some that can be really good at certain times, like late at night or early in the morning, where you might see 20 to 25 cents a kilowatt. But then there's other places and times where it can be 35 to 40 cents a kilo. What I would tell you is, on average, if you have a Tesla and you're on a road trip, you are hey, how are you doing? You are probably going to see about 30 cents a kilowatt on average. That's going to be, I would say, just on average. If you just wanted me to give you one number, one kind of global number, no matter the time of day, whether it's during the day, late at night, early in the morning, regardless of what part of the United States, could be really as cheap as Texas and Oklahoma, where we have a lot of wind and solar and natural gas going into it, all the way to the most expensive, which ironically is the West Coast of the United States, like California and whatnot. And that's a discussion for another day, for why in the world California's power prices would be the most expensive in the country, based on their stated policies. Again, this is not a political channel, and I am not going to get into politics on that. But it is ironic that the state with I'm just going to give you some objective facts on that, because we are talking about Tesla superchargers, and I do travel all across this country. And so I have used Tesla superchargers in 21 states in our country now. The cheapest Tesla superchargers I have used are in the state of Texas. By far, the most expensive I have used have been in the state of California. So it is ironic that one of the reddest states in the country has the lowest power cost, and one of the bluest states in the country, California, has the most expensive power cost. But that is a discussion with 18 subparts, that those 18 subparts have their own 18 subparts. This is not a political channel that I have here whatsoever. If you're ever interested, I think you could probably tell from my channel, I lean a bit libertarian. I'm kind of a libertarian type of guy. My economics are probably a bit conservative, but then on the social end, I'm a bit liberal. For those of y'all that are hardcore right wing, you'd probably look at my social views as maybe being a little bit left of center for y'all. But definitely on the economics front, if we started talking taxes and tariffs and stuff like that, and trade, you're probably gonna sense that I'm a little bit more of a libertarian guy. But what I would say is I'm very consistent. I'm probably a true blue libertarian, which isn't blue at all. I'm right down the middle of the fairway libertarian. Stay out of my pocketbook. I'll stay out of my pocketbook, and I'll stay out of your pocketbook. Stay out of my bedroom, and guess where else I'm going to stay out of? Your bedroom. That's probably the best way to look at it. So, yeah, I'm all for personal liberty and not only personal liberty, but personal empowerment. So I also, you know, I'm going to, you know, somebody, oh, we don't need to go down that route, but yeah, you probably kind of got the sense of, you know, of where I lean there. So I'll tell you that kind of sometimes, I'll get in discussions with my friends here in Texas who are very political on either end, and I can get underneath their skin. Because believe me, I can get underneath the skin of a very hardcore Republican in the state of Texas just as much as I get under the skin of a hardcore Democrat. Well, no, let me take that back. I get under my Democratic friend's skin a lot more. No, yeah, let me take that back. I probably get under their skin a lot more. But I do get under my Republicans' friends' skins too as well. You know, when it comes to things on like LGBT and letting people just live and have their lives, and, you know, and that, you know, people, you know, that people do get discriminated against in this country, and we need to be cognizant of that. As long as there's discrimination of folks, then you don't truly have free trade. You don't have all the other personal liberties and freedoms that we have. So I'm for eradicating, you know, discrimination of any sort, whatever the color of a person's skin or who they love has no meaning. It's the content of their character and what's in their soul. Now, granted, that can brand you right wing nowadays to say that, but that's my true, that's truly where I come from on that. And I have not changed one iota, not one iota. It is funny though. I've always felt that ever since I joined the Marines, and that just got ingrained in me. Because you know, half my platoon was African American. Well, you know what's funny is those guys would beat my ass for saying African American and say, I'm black, you know. So let me say, you know, half my platoon was black. The other half of us were, you know, white and Hispanic and Asian you know, so that got ingrained in me very early. And it's kind of funny that I got in trouble in my household back in the 80s for espousing those views because, you know, my household I grew up in was pretty doggone conservative. But I say that exact same thing today in 2025, and it's some of my more left-leaning friends that I get in trouble with saying stuff like that. So, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. You know what? I got instilled with some very principled values when I was 18 years old, and I stood on those little yellow footprints as a Marine. And those are the values that mean the most to me. And so, you know what? Those values kept me alive for 6 years. So, you know what? To all of y'all on the right wing and all of y'all on the left wing that might besmirch my just very kind of right down the middle libertarian values of, you know, common decency and everything. You know what? I'm gonna rock with that the rest of my life. And if it angered my right wing friends 30 years ago, and now it angers my left wing friends, you know what? You're just gonna have to you're gonna have to learn to rock with me, because you know what? None of y'all were around me when the bullets were flying. That's just going. Let me put it bluntly to you. The values that got instilled in me to keep me alive in combat, or to keep me alive as a Marine, I'm going to rock with those values the rest of my life, whether it hair lips the Queen of England or not. And, yeah. So, I don't know how I got off on that tangent, just talking about EV charging. I think it was the cost of power. I said my channel was not going to get political, and then all of a sudden I just took it off in a political, but I wanted to say all that just to, but this is not I think you can tell where I am at, you know, from, you know, my Marine Corps, beginnings, but this is not a political channel. And this is, maybe I needed to go on that rant to explain why this isn't a political channel, because I don't bring any sort of political bent that is going to be of interest to any of y'all. Most people want the red meat. There you go, a young lady doing her tire. I'll make sure she's good to go. But what I've noticed is most of the political stuff that people want to hear, they want red meat. And I'm just not going to give you red meat. I'm just kind of right down the middle, the fairway, milk toast, libertarian leaning type of person. And that's just not going to give you a lot of red meat. I'm just not that guy. If something comes up that's really interesting and I think I have a nuanced take on it, that kind of cuts against where a lot of folks on X are going, I'll raise my hand and maybe say something. But other than that, nah, I am not gonna get out there and pontificate on why power prices in California are so high, because I'm sure there's a lot that goes into that, nor why it's so ridiculous that some of our politicians in the state of Texas crap on renewables so much, but yet we go so hard in the paint on them and it lowers our power cost. So it's almost like, to me, that's just ridiculous. It's like, just come out and say, like, yeah, we need to go hard in the paint on all of it. But some of them, I don't know, they just can't look at their constituents and say that. I don't know, just to even say the word wind or solar, they can't even have that in their vocabulary, or their constituents will blow a gasket. You see, all of that is just ridiculous to me. Same thing in California. It's like, you say you're going hard in the paint on stuff, but if there's a mole rat 6 feet from a solar panel, y'all got to shut it down for environmental reasons. So that's what I'm saying. Politics can make some of the stupidest outcomes, right? Here in Texas, we go hard in the paint on it, but you can't even say the words. In California, you say the words, but you're not allowed to go hard in the paint on it in case there's a mole rat, within 6 feet of a wind tower or a solar panel, because you can't build anymore. So that's why I'm just not going to give you the red meat on that. I'm either going to anger all of you and I'm going to go back down to 38 subscribers or I've got to say things I don't believe and get 100,000 subscribers. And I just don't care. I'm retired. I don't need 100,000 subscribers of anything. And nobody would want, there ain't 100,000 people on God's green earth that would want to hear what I have to say about anything. So I'm just not going to be able to give you red meat. I'm going to speak the truth if it ever comes up. And I'm going to tell you, yeah, I think politicians in Texas don't have a backbone because they can't speak straight to their constituents about what we're really doing here and why our power costs are down. And then politicians in California also don't have a backbone because they'll say words that are feckless and don't have any meaning because they're never going to do any of it. They can't build. They got a coastal California commission that doesn't let them do jack. So both of them suck in my but see, I'm probably about to go, here I am getting close to 1,300 subscribers, and I'm about to go back down to 38, which is where I was at just 3 or 4 months ago. And I do thank y'all for that. Literally 4 months ago, I had about 38 subscribers. And I just decided, hey, and those were all just family and friends. Literally. Not even all my family. Cause some of my family are like, you do what? You drive around in a Tesla and put up a GoPro? Why am I going to watch? But anyway, but thankfully a lot of y'all, have, enjoyed my channel. So the more I can keep that up, the more I'll get going. But yeah, I am not going to sit here and give y'all any political red meat. I know that's kind of the soup du jour, that folks will get on YouTube or get on X and, really go hard in the paint on the things that are, and really give you that red meat that you might want to hear. But quite frankly, I'm going to anger all of y'all at some point politically. I just am, because I have a Marine Corps mindset, which is no nonsense. And if I see somebody on the right saying something stupid, I generally say it on X. If I see something on somebody on the left saying something stupid or doing something stupid, I'll say that on X. And, so I'm never going to be that red meat guy. I'm going to be that nuanced Marine thing. Cause you know what? That nuanced thinking in those type of values that I learned while I was a Marine, those are the values that actually keep you alive in the real world. But a lot of people just don't want to hear them. They just don't want to hear them. They want the red meat. So yeah. So anyway, so it cost me 8 cents. It's about 30 cents on the road, but to equate, so it's about 4 times more expensive to charge my EV on the road than it is at home. So it is far and away, it is negligible for me to charge at home. Well, let me just tell you, if I go 20,000 miles in a year, which that is more. The average American goes about 12,000. I'm not the average American though. I still, if you go 50 to 100 miles a day, you're going to get close to that 15,000 range. I get up into the 20,000 range, but at home, charging 7 to 8 cents a kilowatt at home, my annual costs are about $300, $275 to $300. Equate that to the same guy in an internal combustion engine car. They're spending anywhere from $2,000 to $2,500 a year. I'm at $275 a year. They're at $2,500 to $3,000 a year. And the reason why is their cost. And I'll give you so if you have a typical internal combustion engine car, and if you get 30 miles to the gallon, so this doesn't, if you're below 30 miles to the gallon on your car, then you're paying more than this. So this is what I've based it on. You've got a fairly new car, like within the last 2 to 3 years, you get 30 miles to the gallon, and you're using whatever that middle octane is. What is that? 90, 89, 90, 91, those guys. So anyway, like that 3 to 3 and a quarter. So like if you're paying more than $3 a gallon for gas, you're also not this guy. So my assumptions were fairly new vehicle, 30 miles to the gallon, and you're paying $3 to $3.25 a gallon. You're spending at 20,000 miles a year, you're spending about $2,500 a year on gas. Me, because I charge at home pretty much universally, and because my electricity costs are only 7 to 8 cents a kilowatt, I spend $275 a year. Let me repeat that. I spend $275 a year. The ICE engine guy is spending about 12. So for me, that equates to about a penny a mile. I'm spending about anywhere from, depending on 20,000 miles, I'm spending about a penny to a penny and a half a mile. Could get up to about a penny and a half, especially if I get out on the road with the superchargers. The guy in the internal combustion engine, he's spending about 11 to 12 cents a mile on gasoline every year. So they're spending 10 times as much as me. 10 times as much. I'm spending $275 to make my car go vroom for 20,000 miles a year. The ICE, the normal, typical internal combustion engine car guy, he's spending $2,500 to $3,000. And I'm telling you, that's based on $3 gas. $3 to $3.25 gas on a 30 mile per hour, 30 miles miles to the gallon car. So if you're less than 30 miles to the gallon and you're paying more than $3, then you're way above that. You're way above that. So that's EV battery economics, charging economics. It's not even close. It is not even close. The only scenario where EV charging economics and gas car even come close is if you're spending 60 to 70 cents a kilowatt for charging, and that you can have that. There are places where I have seen that. There are some spots in California, where at a specific time of the day, like smack dab in the middle of the afternoon, in certain parts of Southern California, I have spent 60 to 70 cents a kilo. I have seen it. But that same person would have to be, the compare and contrast would have to be like $3.50 a gallon. That I haven't seen. I have not seen those two things come together where that same guy that is spending 60 to 70 cents a kilowatt would be spending $3 on a gallon of gas, because usually that's in California. And I don't know if y'all seen what the price of gas is in California. It's usually not $3 or $3.25. It's more like $4 to $5. So that's really the only scenario where those two could actually come together. Now, let me know in the comments if you've seen it differently, where maybe there are some locations in our country where you've seen the Tesla supercharger pricing go above 60 cents a kilowatt, but where your gas is also down below $3.50 a gallon. Maybe that's exists. It doesn't exist anywhere here in Texas. I mean, the gas price does, but I have not seen anywhere in Texas where we've gone above 60 to 70 cents a kilowatt. On the same token, I have definitely seen the power prices go to 60 to 70 cents a kilowatt, but I just haven't seen the gas prices come down to. So that's the scenario where they would meet. Like, if you want to know where, like, power prices would have to get to where you're literally spending the same amount to power your Tesla as you are gas, you'd basically have to get up to about 70 cents a kilowatt. Well, I just told you, I'm spending 7 to 8 cents a kilowatt. So I'm not even anywhere close to that. I'm basically spending about 10%, about a tenth of what somebody who's driving a typical, very good ICE car, gas car, with good gas mileage, I'm spending about a tenth of them. You bring me a guy in a Ford F-150, my God, I might be spending 5% of what that guy's spending. Now, granted, I can't haul what that guy can haul, but again, so that's kind of the EV charging cost. Really, the last thing was to just kind of give y'all a primer on EV battery cost and how those have come down. But I'm going to go inside the Speedy Stop first. I came here and I got going. So this has really become more of a podcast than it has a drive. But again, I do want to close out the EV battery charging cost. We just did that. That's EV battery charging, and comparing and contrasting it to gas car costs. And then finally, what's happened with EV batteries themselves, because they used to be really, really expensive and they've come way down. So let me go into the convenience store, get the stuff I was going to get, and then we'll head home, and I'll try to close out EV batteries on the way home. And if we're not, I'll sit there in my driveway and we'll close it out there. But then we'll be done and dusted, stick a fork in it, and move on to a new topic. All right, everybody, I will see y'all in just a little bit. Hey everybody, JC here, back in the Tesla. Let's head on back home. All right, done in the convenience store. Something really cool. Guess what? Got back into my Tesla after running the errands in the convenience store. Just decided I'd go ahead and check the software app on my Tesla, and guess what? I've got an update pending. So when I get home, we'll just see. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty doggone sure it's the brand new Tesla FSD update. So when I get back home and get into the home driveway, it'll get back on Wi-Fi, and we'll get the software update going. But yeah, while we're headed home, yeah, so we talked about EV charging costs. The last thing I wanted to talk about was EV battery costs themselves. So as you probably know, EV batteries used to be really expensive, like really expensive, but they've come down quite a bit. So if you go back all the way to the late aughts, like 2008, 2009, 2010 timeframe, when Tesla just had, basically all they had out was the Roadster at that point. EV batteries were about $1,500 a kilowatt hour. $1,500 for 1 kilowatt. So, you know, for my battery, which is a 75 kilowatt hour battery, I mean, that's basically like $100,000 just for the battery. That's how expensive EV batteries were. But over time, that cost has come down significantly. So remember that for a second. You go all the way back to 2010, about $1,500 a kilowatt hour. Then when you get to 2015, so we've got the Model S is out. I think they got the Model X is getting ready to come out. So they've got more traction. Now we've gone from $1,500 a kilowatt hour all the way down to $500 a kit. So they chopped $1,000 a kilowatt hour off in about 5 to 7 years. So that was 2015. Then we get to 2020, right? Now you've not only got the Model S, the Model X, but you've got the Model 3 and the Model Y out there as well. And so by the time you get to 2020, way more traction. Now we're down to $135 a kilowatt hour. So we had 1,500, then down to 500, then down to 135 a kilowatt hour. And so where we're at today, as of the year 2025, oh, my wife is home, and I'm about to parallel park right. Am I going to parallel park right in front of her, or is it just going to stop? Nope, it's going to stop. So let me, because it's my wife, and I don't want to block traffic here, and she's going to wonder why I'm sitting in my car for a second, but let me just do this for a second. And then she's going to be like, what's this yahoo doing? So let me do that. I'll turn off the lights here for a second. So yeah, so it went, and today it's about $100 a kilowatt hour. And so think about that. In 2008, 9, 10, we were at $1,500 a kilowatt hour. Today we're at $100 a kilowatt hour. That is damn near 95% drop in the cost of manufacturing an EV battery, right? So what that means today is my battery would have cost about $100,000, maybe north of that, 15 years ago. Today, it's about $7,500. So the battery on average, because I got a 75 kilowatt hour battery. So all you got to do is do the math on that, you know, at $100 a kilowatt hour. My battery pack, my entire battery pack is about $7,500. Well, guess what? A brand new engine for an equivalent gas car, like a BMW, Audi, Volvo, that's going to be $7,500. So we're basically at parity now with a top of the line EV battery in 2025 compared to replacing a brand new engine in a fairly decent luxury gas car, right? So that wasn't always the case. And that's always been one of the things, like, oh, what if your battery goes out? What if your engine goes out? And guess what? Engines go out a lot quicker than EV batteries, which, oh, by the way, reminds me, there's a new research report that came out here this last week, and Teslas now are the longest lived vehicles of any type, gas or EV, gas or electric. 209,000 miles. That is the expected life of a Tesla now, is 209,000 miles. The average EV, I believe, was around 120 to 130. So non-Tesla EVs, you can expect, which is good. You can expect to get 120, 130,000 miles out of those. And then the best gas cars were like, I think Audi was like at 140,000. And then the Skoda of the diesels was up there like 170, 180. So that's good. But the Teslas, 209,000 100,000 miles. And that's not going to come as any surprise to people that have owned Teslas now for 6, 7, 8 years. There are folks out there with 400, 500,000 miles on their Teslas, and it's not even strange. Right? It's not even strange. And they haven't had to change out anything. They haven't had to change out the battery pack or any, well, there's obviously no, transmission or engine block to change out because they don't exist. But from, so for us, the battery pack, like obviously in a vehicle, it's going to be your engine block and the transmission, right? Those things together are usually going to be the really big ticket items that make you decide whether to buy another car or not. For an EV, it's the battery pack. That's the thing. And so, yeah. So not only are we at parity now from a cost on cost basis of replacing a engine block and transmission in a gas car, equivalent gas car to a Tesla, but Teslas last longer. So you're going to change the engine and transmission in that Mercedes or that Audi or that Volvo or that BMW or that Ford or that Chevy, almost twice as much as you will. In fact, in some cases, twice as much. Because at 209,000 miles, you're not even halfway there at 100,000 miles to a Tesla. So, I mean, everything's going the direction of EVs now. It really is. There's almost literally no arguments being left. The cost part of it is gone. It really is. there's no argument can be right now. The only arguments that could be made when it comes to EVs, especially when we're talking about EV batteries, cost are off the table. Cost of charging and the cost of the battery, kaput, gone. Tesla did that. Tesla did that for the entire industry. I will say that if you have range anxiety, and that is just a psychological thing, right? I'm not going to sit here and, I can give you the facts that at the end of the day, you really only need a vehicle with, say, a 250 mile capacity battery pack. That's it. That's really all you need in the United States of America. But I get it. People are just going to have range anxiety initially because they've never had an EV before. So for those folks, it's going to be tough because there aren't as many public EV chargers as there are gas stations. Now, I explained to you why that is. I'm a great example. Ask me, well, you can't ask me because this isn't live, but the last time that I used a public charger where I didn't charge at my house was November 3rd of 2024. Literally last year. It has been January, almost 4 months. It has been 3.5 months since I used a charger that wasn't in my own damn garage. There are people that have charged up their iPhones at different places than their house. More so than me charging. So the reason I bring that up is because I'm a great example of why you don't need a whole bunch of public chargers out there. But I do get it. I do get and if, my example where I've been getting 100% of the power from my car for 3.5 months right out of my garage over there. You can't do that with a gas car, right? You're not going to get gas out of your wall socket. Just physically and chemistry wise, that can't work. And you probably don't want a big old, vat of diesel or gasoline, in your wall. But we all live with electricity in our wall, right? So there you go. But I do get it. The only thing left, is range anxiety. That psychological barrier that folks are going to have about range anxiety. And the fact that there's not a ton of public chargers all over the place. What you'd find out is once you bought an EV, you would quickly find out like, holy crap, we built way too many public chargers. That's going to be, you're like, oh crap, we built way too many of these. I mean, if we had as many, not today, I'm talking about if we had as many as we have gas stations, that would be way too many. Because most people are going to be like me. Once you bought an EV and learn your EV and learn, you're going to see you're never going to charge any place other than your wall socket in your garage unless you go on a road trip once or twice a year, however often you do that. That's it. That is it. You are going to be charging out of your 110 volt where your daughter has her, iPhone plugged in next to it. That literally is going to be all you're doing. So if I don't know what the number for home ownership is in America, but if it's 60% or whatever, I think it's 50 to 60%. Well, that's 50 to 60% of people who are literally never going to need public chargers around town. They're just not. They're just not going to need them. Now that being said, we still need more than we have now. We absolutely do. And, but that's it. That is really, you don't need a 500-mile range battery pack either. You just don't. There may be 1 to 2% of you that might need that for some very niche reasons. But for 95+% of you, you do not need more. You really don't need more than 250 miles. Just to be flat out honest with you. But just to be nice, to give it some cushion, I would say that 300 plus miles capacity on an EV battery pack, that's 95+% of you. That is just the God honest truth. And the only people that would say that's not true don't own EVs. That's just the God's honest truth. It's because they don't own an EV and they don't yet understand how easy it is to get around. Like I said, November 3rd, folks, that is the last time. The reason I used it on November 3rd is that was when we were coming back from Kentucky. So it was the last road trip I was on was during the last week of October, first week of November. I will use one again here pretty soon because I'll be going back out on the road here pretty soon. Go back to Kansas. But that's it. That is it. That's the only time I use Tesla superchargers is when I'm on a road trip. All right. So I think we've gone through. Oh, the only other thing I was going to say on battery packs, we talked about the price coming down from $1,500 to $100 now. Most analysts, as they scope this out and look in the future, they're basically saying by the time we get to 2030, battery packs ought to be at somewhere from 30 to 50 bucks a kilowatt hour. So here we were, 1,500 15 years ago, brought it down to 500 about 5 years later, brought it down to 135 to 150 back in 2020. And then now we're about $100 a kilowatt hour. And they're talking about getting down to $30 to $50 a kilowatt. I mean, it's going to be ridiculous at that point. Like literally, it's going to be hard for gas cars, equivalent type gas cars, to compete with EVs at that point. It really will. And that's where I think that combined with autonomy, like unsupervised autonomy, you're really going to see the EV adoption rate skyrocket here in America. Like for us, it's been onesies, twosies. We're at 9% now. And that's been a fist fight to go from nothing, maybe 1% 15 years ago to 9% today. It's been a fist fight here for a lot of reasons that we already talked about. But I think once you really get that pricing way down of both the battery pack and the EV itself, and then we have, true unsupervised level 4 autonomy, if you will. I mean, I don't know how I mean, if you're still manually driving yourself in a gas car, it's culturally at that point. And I'm going to tell you what, that's not going to be the majority of Americans. The majority of Americans are going to vote with their pocketbooks. All right. Well, I've got to tell you what, let me do this. I can see, let's see what, there we go. Oh, we are. So we're downloading, before I head out here, we're downloading the software. What the hell? That scared the bejesus out of me. That's my wife's car. I don't know what she used. So, well, way to mess up my video, babe. So, yeah, we're down. I was going to take you, but I am not going to let you suffer through my wife's vehicle beeping at me. So, all right. Well, you can see that I've, geez, did she finally get it turned off? Okay, yeah. So, as you can see, it's downloading the software now. She's probably like, is he still in his car? What's he doing? Who's he talking to? Oh, I'm going to get some questions. Like, I'm going to have to show her this video. You better damn well. She's like, let me see that video, and I want to see the timestamps. But, yeah, you can see it's downloading right now. So hopefully I got me a new FSD update here pretty soon. Well, all right, everybody. I hope y'all have a great rest of the evening. And, yeah, I will talk to y'all again tomorrow. Definitely you'll do something. Now, I've got to take my brother-in-law to the grocery store and do some stuff with him. So, I'll try to see if I can get a really good drive in tomorrow, but I know I got to take him to the grocery store. But tomorrow's Friday and then we got the weekend. So maybe I'll be able to do some good drives here pretty soon. But yeah, that's awesome. That's a way to end out this, video, is me downloading a brand new Tesla FSD update. All right, everybody. You know I love you. Oh, and something I keep forgetting to say at the end of my videos. Please like and subscribe. Thank you to everybody that has. Like I said, 4 months ago, I was literally at 35 or 38 subscribers, and that was half of those people live in my house. So literally 4 months ago, half of my YouTube subscribers were people that lived underneath my roof or that were in my family else. Obviously, I'm being a little tongue-in-cheek there, but only a little bit. But in 4 months' time, I've, you know, literally, it's just been incredible. So I really do thank y'all for that. So please continue to, you know, like the videos, comment, and if you know somebody that you think might like it, forward it to them. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It's for a very, very low cost of $0.00. It costs less than the power out of my 110 volt socket. Promise you. All right, everybody. You know I love you, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.